I woke up under the cold white lights of the ICU, my body aching as if it had been torn apart. Every breath felt heavy, like something was pressing down on my chest. The first thing I did wasn't ask about myself. It was reaching for my stomach. Empty. My heart tightened. Panic came in waves. Where was my baby? A nurse quickly reassured me. My daughter had been delivered by emergency C-section and was now in the NICU. She was alive, but very weak. I broke down in tears, but then another question crept into my mind, colder than the physical pain. Who was with my baby? My husband was still on a flight home, and my mother, who lived just 20 minutes from the hospital. The answer left me numb. No one. Not a single family member. My daughter, only a few hours old, was being cared for by a complete stranger, while my mother chose to stay at a casino, continuing her night as if nothing had happened. In that moment, lying in that hospital bed, I realized I hadn't just survived a medical emergency. I had learned something else. Who my family really was. It didn't start with the accident. It started 9 years earlier, on the day I received my first paycheck. I still remember the feeling when I looked at my bank account. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could truly help my family. And then my phone rang. It was my mom. Her voice was trembling, almost in tears. My dad had just had a mild stroke, the hospital bills were piling up, and the house was at risk of foreclosure. I didn't hesitate. How much do you need? About $2,000 a month, just until things stabilize. I agreed that same night. I even set up automatic transfers. I thought it was the right thing to do. As a daughter, I believed I should. But temporary never ended. By the third year, the amount had risen to $3,500. By the fifth year, it was $4,500 a month. There was always a new reason. My dad's medication, home repairs, then my sister needing to take some course to pursue her passion. I never said no. I cut back on everything, canceling small things like the gym, eating out. On weekends, I took on freelance work just to keep up with the payments. I kept telling myself, just a little longer, and everything will be okay. But one thing never changed. Not a single word of thanks. Just one sentence my mom always said, as if it were a given. This is your responsibility. And I believed it, for 9 years. At first, I didn't question anything. I believed every word my mom said, that every dollar was going toward the family, my dad's health, and things we truly needed. But then, small details started to make me pause. One day, while scrolling through social media, I saw my sister post a photo. She was smiling brightly, holding a brand new Louis Vuitton bag. The caption read, "Best mom ever." I stared at that photo for a long time. Questions started flooding my mind. If my family was struggling the way my mom said, where did that bag come from? If medical bills were overwhelming, how was there money for something so expensive? I almost called to ask, but then I stopped. I made excuses for them. Maybe the bag was on sale. Maybe my sister was going through something and needed comfort. Maybe I was being selfish for doubting my own family, so I chose to stay silent. Not just once, but many times after that. Every time I saw my mom post photos from a spa, every time my sister went on another trip, I found a reason to explain it away, instead of facing the truth. That was the first lie I told myself. And it's the reason I stayed trapped in that cycle for so many years. Have you ever chosen to not see the truth just to preserve a relationship? Comment 1 below. Things might have continued that way, if it weren't for Lucas. He wasn't someone who liked to interfere in my family matters. During the 2 years we'd been together, he mostly just observed, quietly, until one day he couldn't stay silent anymore. "Amelia, have you noticed something?" he asked after dinner. "Since I've known you, your mom has never once asked how you're doing." I laughed it off, trying to make it sound light. "She's just busy." But Lucas didn't smile. "On Thanksgiving, she talked for 40 minutes about your sister, her Instagram, her followers, but didn't say a word about your promotion." I went quiet, because I remembered. I remembered that moment clearly, but I had tried to forget it. A few weeks later, Lucas placed a laptop in front of me. On the screen was a spreadsheet. Every transfer, every month, every year. The final number stood out, $486,000. My chest tightened. "This is what you've sent?" he said gently. "Amelia, this is 2 houses. This is our child's future." I wanted to argue, to say my family needed it, that it was my responsibility. But Lucas asked one question I couldn't answer. If you keep going like this, what will your daughter learn? I looked at the number on the screen, then at myself. For the first time, I wasn't sure I was doing the right thing. Everything truly changed that night. I was driving home after a long day at work. It was pouring rain, the roads were slick, and my vision was blurred by the glare of headlights. I was just a few minutes from home when everything happened too fast. A pickup truck ran a red light. The sound of metal crashing was deafening. Glass shattered everywhere. My body was thrown forward. I didn't have time to react, didn't have time to think. I only had time to clutch my stomach. My baby. The pain hit instantly, so intense I couldn't breathe. Every breath felt like a knife cutting into my chest. I heard sirens, voices shouting, flashing lights, and then everything faded into darkness. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. They told me I had a punctured lung, 3 broken ribs, and had undergone emergency surgery. My daughter had been born prematurely and was in the NICU. But what truly broke me wasn't the pain. It was the call my husband made to my mother. He was thousands of miles away and couldn't be there. All he could do was beg my mom, who lived just 20 minutes from the hospital, to come help. But her response was, "Amelia always has problems like this." She refused to come because she was at a casino. In that moment, I didn't just lose trust. I lost every illusion I had about my family. I lay in the ICU, my body in pain, but my mind strangely clear. No mom, no one from my family, just silence. I picked up my phone. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. No missed calls, no messages checking in. The only thing I saw was a post from my sister on social media. She was on a yacht, holding a cocktail, smiling brightly, living my best life. I stared at that photo, and this time I didn't try to make excuses. Everything became painfully clear. I opened my banking app. My transaction history appeared. 9 years, every transfer like clockwork. $4,500 a month, never missed once. Nearly $500,000. I scrolled up, then down, looking for any sign of gratitude. There was nothing. Just money leaving my account and disappearing. My finger paused over the automatic transfer section. In my head, I heard my mom's voice. "That's your responsibility." But this time, another question surfaced. Then what is a mother's responsibility? To be there when her daughter is lying in the emergency room. To be by her granddaughter's side when she's just been born. Not at a casino. I took a deep breath and pressed cancel. Once, twice, 3 times. It only took a few seconds to end 9 years. I put the phone down, and for the first time, I felt relief. If you were in my place, would you have the courage to stop? Comment 1 below. Just a few hours after I canceled all the transfers, the hospital room door opened. And the person who walked in wasn't my mom. It was my grandfather. He stood there, still upright, his silver hair neatly combed, his eyes sharp as if they could see right through everything. I hadn't seen him in years because my mom always said he was too busy, that he didn't want to see the family. But when he saw me lying in that hospital bed, he said only one thing. "I'm here." I broke down in tears. He took my hand, gripping it tightly, as if trying to make up for all the lost years. He didn't ask many questions, he already knew almost everything. Then, he placed a thick folder on the table. "Amelia, I know about the money." My heart sank. He opened it. Inside was my entire transfer history over the past 9 years. Every amount, every month, not a single detail missing. $486,000, he said slowly. I've been tracking it for a long time. I was stunned, not because I'd been found out, but because, for the first time, someone truly saw what I had done. But what shocked me even more was what he said next. "Your mother has been telling the family that you never help anyone, that you're selfish." I couldn't believe it. All my sacrifices had been twisted into the exact opposite. In that moment, I realized the problem wasn't just about money, it was manipulation, stretched over years. Not long after that, the hospital room door opened again. This time it was my mother. She walked in looking as perfect as ever, makeup done, clothes immaculate, as if she were attending an important meeting rather than coming to a hospital. Her familiar perfume filled the air. "Amelia, sweetheart, I'm here." Her voice was full of concern. If someone didn't know the truth, they might have believed her. But I just looked at her, in silence. My grandfather didn't let the performance go on. "Victoria," his voice turned cold, "the accident happened 6 hours ago. Where were you?" She froze. 1 second. 2. I was stuck in traffic. At a casino, my father said from behind. The air in the room went still. My mother turned to him, her eyes sharpening, then quickly shifted back into her familiar expression. Fragile, the victim. Amelia, you have to understand. Stop. I cut her off. My voice was weak, but steady. I heard everything. What you said to Lucas. She went silent. I looked straight at her for the first time without looking away. I almost died. My daughter is lying alone in the NICU, and you chose to stay there. There was no excuse left that made sense. My grandfather stepped forward, placing the folder in front of her. $486,000, he said, his voice like a verdict. That's how much your daughter has sent you. My mother's face went pale. Layer by layer, the facade began to crack, right in front of everyone. And for the first time in her life, she was no longer in control of the story. After everything, I still gave my mother one last chance. A month later, I hosted a small gathering to celebrate my daughter turning 1 month old. Nothing big, just family and a few close friends. I wanted to believe that maybe things could still be fixed. My mother arrived late, and she didn't come alone. She brought Megan, the one person I hadn't invited. Surprise, Amelia, she smiled as if nothing had ever happened. I didn't say anything. I just watched. She hugged everyone, laughed, played the role of the perfect mother flawlessly. But her eyes kept drifting toward my grandfather. Calculating. Watching. And then I heard it. In the kitchen, Megan was whispering on the phone. Mom, you need to talk to Grandpa soon. I need that money. I stood there, frozen. So this was the second chance. Not to make things right, but to continue. Less than 30 minutes later, my mother approached my grandfather. She didn't realize the microphone in the room was still on. Amelia has a husband, a career. Megan is the one who deserves the inheritance more. The entire room fell silent. All eyes turned to her. This time the truth couldn't be hidden. I stepped forward, my heart pounding, but my voice strangely calm. I gave you a chance. I paused. And you just proved you haven't changed. If you were in my place, would you give a second chance? Comment 1 below. The room fell into suffocating silence. I stepped forward, standing in front of everyone. No more hesitation. No more avoiding the truth. For 9 years, I said, my voice steady, I've been sending Mom $4,500 every month. Whispers began to ripple through the room. Nearly $500,000. My mother froze. Megan did too. All that time, you told everyone I was selfish, that I never helped the family. I paused, looking straight at her. The night I almost died, you were at a casino. My daughter was lying alone in the NICU. And today, you're still thinking about money. Tears began to fall down her face. But this time, I wasn't moved. I took a step forward, my voice softer, but firm. I'm not doing this out of anger. I glanced toward the room where my daughter was sleeping. I'm doing this for myself. A beep. And for my daughter. I took a deep breath. Starting today, we're done. The entire room went still. Don't call me, don't come looking for me, we're finished. My mother shouted, calling me ungrateful. Megan tried to jump in, but no one stood by their side anymore. For the first time, they weren't in control of the story, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. There was only one feeling left. Freedom. Everything changed almost immediately. The moment I stopped sending money, their lives began to reveal their true nature. Without $4,500 a month, the spa trips disappeared. The nights at the casino stopped. The luxury items no longer showed up on social media. My mother was forced to sell the new sofa she used to show off. The house began to reveal financial problems that had always been hidden before. There was no sudden hardship. It was simply the first time they had to face reality. As for Megan, the one who had been living off that money, she started to struggle. Her perfect life posts slowly vanished. A video she posted complaining about family betrayal barely got any views. A few weeks later, I heard she'd gotten a job. Her first one, at 29. My father called me once. His voice was low, exhausted. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I stayed silent, but thank you for stopping. A long pause. I'm sorry. For the first time in years, he said it. I didn't say I forgive you, but I didn't hang up either. Because sometimes, change doesn't come from words. It comes from finally facing the truth. My life slowly began to settle in a very different way. No more money quietly leaving my account every month. No more anxiety every time my phone rang. Instead, there was a sense of calm, something I had never truly experienced before. For the first time in nearly a decade, I looked at my bank account and saw it growing. We started doing things we had only ever thought about before. Paying down debt, setting up a college fund for our daughter, even taking a real vacation, not rushed, not squeezed in, but actually enjoying it. But the biggest change wasn't the money, it was how I felt. I no longer felt tied to some vague sense of obligation. I no longer had to keep trying to please people who had never truly seen me. My grandfather became an important part of my life. Every week, he would come by, hold his granddaughter, tell stories, and simply be there. That was it. But to me, it meant more than everything I had tried to buy with money over those 9 years. I started to understand something. Family isn't a place where you have to give until you have nothing left. It's a place where you are valued simply for being who you are. Do you think that giving too much can sometimes make others take it for granted? Comment 1 below. After everything that happened, each person in my family changed in very different ways. My father was the first. He didn't leave my mother, but he was no longer silent like before. His calls became hesitant, careful, as if he was relearning how to be a father. He started setting boundaries, small ones but real. "I'm trying," he said during one call. I didn't say much, but I listened, because for the first time I saw that he wasn't avoiding the truth anymore. As for Megan, her change surprised me even more. She got a job. The flashy posts disappeared. The bragging stopped. In their place was silence. After a while, she called me, not to ask for money, not to make excuses, just to say she had started therapy, that for the first time in her life, she was beginning to understand why she had become the way she was. I didn't open the door completely, but I didn't close it either. As for my mother, no more constant calls, no more promises to change. She disappeared from my life, as if she had never been there. I didn't feel completely relieved, but I also didn't feel that heavy weight anymore. Because this time, I wasn't trying to change them. I chose to change myself. A year passed. I stood by the crib, watching my daughter sleep, her tiny hand wrapped tightly around my finger, as if she was afraid to let go. And in that moment, I understood something clearly. Something that had taken me so long to learn. Love should never come with conditions. I leaned down and whispered to her, "I will never make you feel like you have to prove your worth. Not with money, not with sacrifice, not by trying to please others. Just being who you are is enough." I used to think family was something you had to fight to hold on to at all costs, that if I gave enough, they would change, that they would love me back. But I was wrong. Real family isn't a place where you have to wear yourself down just to be accepted. It's a place where you are chosen, not because of how much you give, but because of who you are. I didn't win against anyone in this story. I simply stopped. Stopped trying to save people who didn't want to change. Stopped sacrificing myself to maintain a broken relationship, and when I stopped, I started living. No more guilt, no more need to prove anything, just one thing left. I know my worth.